Yep, so that was us there, ready to move to our new homestead. We were like the modern day Beverly Hillbillies driving down the highway from Wisconsin to Illinois, ready to get to our new location. But if you backtrack way before that point to where we were actually moving to our new homestead property, we had so many discussions around the topic of land specifically. How much land do we need as homesteaders for our family? So coming from like the city or the suburbs, we had no clue how much land you needed. Obviously, you kind of know what you're looking for in a house or a home, but when it came to farmland, we had no idea. And you kind of just tend to apply the like bigger is better mentality to it in your search. And so we did that. I don't know. I had a hard time settling for anything under like 10 or 20 acres, and without.
I feel like that just sounds like sexier, right? Like to have like the
Yeah.
land, like you had a lot of land.
More land the better, and to be honest, we probably didn't even have a plan for what we would do with 10 or 20 acres if we had it, but that was what we wanted. And so we spent a lot of time looking in that range, and not discounting less acres totally, but looking for something with more acreage to it. And so ultimately, we ended up buying a 5-acre homestead. It was a bit of a shock, and I was a little in denial for a while that was what we were buying, but it ended up being a really pleasant surprise, and a really manageable amount of land for us as beginning homesteaders. And so for this video, we came up with 5 reasons why 5 acres is a really good size to consider for a beginning homesteader. And so we're going to walk you through those reasons.
Yeah, and we want to share this especially too because we often have conversations with people that we come across that tell us that they want to get into homesteading, and I feel like we frequently hear, but we need to have at least 10 acres. And I feel like whenever we have those conversations, people are always like, well, have an open mind and, think about what you can do. And so that's why we wanted to share this video and share some thoughts about really all of the amazing things that 5 acres can offer and why it might be actually a pretty good fit.
Yeah, and just to clarify too, with 5 acres, I'm not like, there's no magic number about 5 acres itself. It's more if you think of like a range, maybe like 3 to 7 acres.
Yeah.
I think you kind of hit some limits on either end of that. If you go below that, you'll have some limitations. If you go above that, it kind of puts you in a different category too. So nothing magic about 5.
Just small scale,
small
acreage homesteading. Yeah. So the first point being that 5 acres is just practical, right? Like the less land you have, the less resources that are needed to take care of the land and to steward the land well. And so that's going to mean less cost, less time, less infrastructure. On our property here, we get by with very little equipment, right? We just have really basic things, a small riding lawnmower, and
I have a 2-wheel BCS tractor, and that does me good. I don't. We could certainly have a bigger tractor and put it to use, but a small BCS with a tiller and a few other attachments, we get by just fine with that.
Yeah. So. We do have a small pole barn on our property, but besides that, we've just had to invest in very little equipment, and there's always projects to do, right? There's always things you can be doing on your property, but we've been grateful. I feel like the bigger you have, the more time and project, like just the more that is required. And so in terms of resources and practicality, of course it depends on what you want to do, but 5 acres is actually really manageable. And for us as beginning homesteaders with a young family, I really appreciate that about it.
Yeah, one of the things I really like about 5 acres or so is you can keep things at really a human scale. You don't need to upgrade to bigger equipment, things like that. And I think like if you're thinking in that 10-acre or more range, generally I've seen that it's not a total requirement, but you're going to be probably wanting to get bigger equipment, machinery, things like that to operate on 10 or more acres. So something to consider. So number 2 is that you can have a cow on your property. Granted, if you want it, and if you are zoned for agricultural use, if you have 3 acres in a residential neighborhood, you probably don't want to come and bring a cow into your neighborhood.
They probably won't let you.
But if you're zoned ag and have 5 acres, you can have a cow, and that's pretty awesome. There's so many great things that come about having a cow. We have a milk cow, and we get so much awesome dairy and food and everything from that. And she then calves, and we raise the calf as a meat cow, which is great, and we get a ton of food from that. And so generally, the rule of thumb that we've learned along the way is that like 1 cow per acre roughly is what you can have. That might even be a little cramped. It might be like 1 per every 1.5 or even 2 acres. So on our land, we generally have like 2 or 3 cows, depending on where we're at. But that's worked out great, and we've enjoyed that. And similarly, like if you're considering other animals, livestock, I've heard like 7 sheep per acre is a general rule of thumb, and then 10 goats per acre. And so you could have a lot of sheep and a lot of goats on just 5 or so acres, which is awesome.
Yeah, and so I think the point Jim is making is you can do a lot. Like you can raise a lot of animals. You can I think our third point is just you can raise a lot of food on 5 acres. And so we've only been on our property. This is our 2nd full year coming up here on our property. And in our first year, we were pretty much able to grow enough food on our property to feed our family all year. On 5 acres in our first year. And so we planted an orchard. I mean, you can have a good sized orchard on 5 acres. You can grow a ton of vegetables. If you're interested in growing year round, you can do greenhouses and hoop houses. You can do mushrooms. There are just so many possibilities of food that you can grow on 5 acres. Plus, it's really fun. We have a lot of wild things growing on our property. You can do Jim mentioned a lot of the bigger animals and livestock that you can have, but you can also do smaller animals really easily. Last year we did broiler chickens. You could do things like rabbits, quails. I mean, pigs would work. There's just a lot of options and things that really do work well on smaller spaces.
Yeah, we had this system that we did last year with we raised broiler birds and did a 3 Sisters garden and planted an orchard and grew potatoes. And so we had 1,000 pounds of potatoes, hundreds of squash.
Yeah, raised a bunch of, and it was all within this a half acre,
third of an acre. We were just blown away how much food you could grow on such little space.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so point number 4 then is if in your search for a homestead property, you're not looking for 5 acres, you could potentially be missing out on a lot. And so if you have your low end of your search limit of land set at 10 acres or above.
Like on Realtor.com or whatever
Zillow,
your search criteria is.
Your minimum is 10 acres. There's a lot of 5 acre properties out there, and a lot of really good ones too. That's kind of like a standard size that gets split off of larger, 40 acre, 80 acre properties with a home on it. A lot of times you'll find these random streets that are just one after the other, little homestead 5 acre properties in these rural areas, and those are pretty common. I don't know what it is about that size, but that's just a pretty common size. And so there's a lot of opportunities out there with 5 acres.
Yeah, so if you're not looking for them, you could be missing out on a lot of really good potential options.
Yeah, definitely. And that brings us to the 5th point, is that you can always buy or lease more land. You can always expand onto more land eventually. 5 acres, it's a great place to start to kind of try some things out. You can raise different animals, grow different crops, try different things out, see what you like, and then decide if more land is even necessary or not. You may find that I didn't like having a cow, and we're going to stick with chickens, and so we could have a lot of chickens on 5 acres, or whatever the case might be. There's a lot of really there's a growing trend of kind of this world of farmland access out there, where there's just really creative ways to find more land that's available. Whether that's like you hear stories of if somebody has goats, they graze their goats on somebody else's land to help them manage their land and cut back on invasive species and things like that. So there's just creative ways to expand beyond what your kind of home base is, and to look to neighbors or people in your community to see if there's opportunities to partner or utilize their land or lease some land. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're in a land search or homestead search and trying to kind of figure out what your options are, we would just encourage you to maybe consider if a smaller amount of land could be a good potential fit for you. It really has been for us, surprisingly. Like, this is not what we were expecting heading into it, yet we are so grateful we stumbled upon our 5 acres, and we are really maximizing it and using it well. So we created this other video about how we have and care for our family milk cow on our 5 acres, which would be a great video if you're kind of thinking about maybe the small scale, but how do you do big things like have a cow on a small scale. So we'll see you over in that next video.